Hello, dears. Welcome to Life and Beyond. I'm doing a video after a very long time, so I thought I'll restart with something very personal. One of the very major problems that I had always struggled with in my life was my difficulty in trusting people. It had started since long, but I realized it very late. How did I come to know about it? Initially, I had this very clear thought that that's not a problem with myself. Obviously, people cannot be trusted, they are selfish. That's a problem that is related to them, not me. But why did it start bothering me? Because I couldn't open up. I couldn't tell them that I'm uncomfortable. I couldn't tell my feelings. I couldn't tell them my difficulties. And it was getting more and more uncomfortable. And finally, a point came where I was not able to bear it. Only when you are not able to deal with it, or only when the problem becomes so big, only then you go deep into that problem. And likewise, I did. Then only a very subtle thought started entering my mind. Is it really their problem, or is it actually mine? Then I read a lot of books, I read a lot of material, and I saw a lot of videos. And finally, I came up with 3 probable causes why I couldn't trust people. And a very big shock for me was that I realized all these 3 played in my life. The first thing was a very big trauma, an emotional trauma in your life that clearly writes in your mind that people are selfish, they cannot be trusted, people don't care. And obviously, if the trauma is in the childhood, it hurts even more. The second thing is related to your personality. If you have a personality trait where you tend to ask a lot of questions or you have a lot of doubts, then it will be very difficult for you to simply trust. You need evidence to trust. That was my trait. And the third one was I had unknowingly mistook trust for something else. What I really meant by I couldn't trust you in that situation is that I didn't expect you to say like that in that situation. So my expectations became equal to my trust. So I don't know if he was being genuine or he was being selfish. But if he didn't respond or if she didn't say according to my expectation, I took it as I cannot trust that person. And after I realized that these are my problems and these are my reasons for this problem, I went in deep. I wanted solutions because, as I told, it couldn't be bearable anymore. And the solutions that I came up with were very simple, very subtle, but they have helped me a hell lot in this journey. I cannot say that I have overcome it completely, but I'm a lot better than where I started. Let me share with you the solutions that I came up with. The first thing is to be non-defensive. Whenever we get into an argument, especially about trust issue, what I did was be very defensive. I know what I said and I stand by on that. No matter how much ever the other person say or whatever the other person say, I'm not going to budge. Because I know that I mean it and I don't want to hear any explanation. In that situation, there is no openness. There is no discussion about what happened and we don't get to hear the other person's opinion or why they did or say something like that. Then how are we to know whether they were being genuine or whether they were being selfish? The second thing that I learned was don't give in to your emotion. Whenever I felt or I saw distrust from the side of the other person, the immediate feeling that I had was, see, it has repeated itself again. I knew it. I knew that people cannot be trusted. But at the same time, I got very hurt. Every single time. I had this feeling that I already knew that, but still I got hurt every single time. Whatever negative emotion it is, the moment that I give in to my emotion, whether it is sadness, whether it is hurt, whether it is hatred, that moment I close my mind. Then nothing is going to enter my mind. And I remain distrustful. I don't even hear what the other side is. And when I started opening up, when I started seeing myself from the perspective of a third person, then only I realized that I was not assessing the solution in its entirety, and I was just looking at my own perspective. There was no space for the other person. There was no space for his or her opinions. And always my decisions were biased. The third lesson that I have learned in this journey is to be honest. It might sound very familiar when I say that sometimes, even when we have a thought that we could be wrong, that is during a heated argument or some discussion, or sometimes a realization just comes to your mind that maybe I am wrong. Even at that time, it is very difficult for us to be honest with ourselves, let alone the other person. It is very difficult for us to accept in our mind that maybe I am wrong. Even at that time, our mind tries to tell us that, no, how could you be wrong? You are so sure of that. You have to be right. The other person is wrong. But if we can get over that thought and have a rational thinking, have a more clearer thinking that is there a possibility that I am wrong, only then you can open up to other person. Only then you can have a clear idea, a rational idea, a truthful idea, whether this was something really distrustful or whether it is something that is created by our own mind. The fourth important lesson that I learned in this journey is always give time and give space for the other person. Even if you had some situations where you had to talk it over, sometimes the next thing happens, the history repeats. Then you feel totally disheartened. I opened up, I told that I cannot bear it, I cannot bear a distrust, but yet he or she is doing the very same thing. You have to understand that a person cannot change just like that. He needs time, he needs space. Only if you provide the other person the time and space, only then they can change, if at all they were distrustful from the past. You can't expect a person to change the very same moment you talk them. So always, if the relationship is important to you, try to give that person a little bit of time and a little bit of space. The next thing that I learned is to let go of your fear. Always when you have an experience that you couldn't trust someone or someone very important to you didn't live up to your expectation of trust, you always fear that in all the other relationships to come. Sometimes you may not even realize that it is your fear about the past relationship that is causing this problem in the present relationship. It takes a lot of time and effort on your part to distinguish between the both. So always, repeatedly, if you have a problem of trust in all your relationships, just sit and give it a thought. If it's your past that is getting reflected over and over in your mind, or is it really the present relationship that is a problem? And the final point that I learned in this journey is believe that you are going to be fine. Why I am saying this is because always, whenever you try to trust a person or you think about trusting a person, the immediate thought that comes to your mind is, what if I get hurt again? This makes us feel so closed inside ourselves and we cannot open up to anyone with this thought. But I want to reassure you that how much ever hurt happens, you are going to be fine. What is the proof that I am going to be fine? You have survived all the situations of your life in the past, haven't you? Otherwise, you won't be at this place in your life at this time. You have survived it all and you are going to survive it in the future also. So, always remember, if at all any problem arises, you are going to be fine at the end of the day. All these tips have helped me a lot in my journey with trust. But the most important lesson that I have learned is be trustful about yourself. When I say this, you're definitely going to ask me, who doesn't trust themselves? But believe me when I say this, no one trusts themselves. We all pretend that we do. We don't trust ourselves. The proof is that is why we say, I shouldn't have said that. I said the wrong thing at the wrong place at the wrong time. Why couldn't I do it right? I'm so bad. I couldn't do just one thing right. I'm such an... All these sentences come up again and again in our mind because we don't trust ourselves. We don't love ourselves. We are not at peace with ourselves. Remember, it all starts with you. Only when you start loving yourself, you start trusting yourself, you start being at peace with yourself, then only you can radiate it to others. So, trusting someone else starts with trusting you. I sincerely hope that you got at least one point out of this which can set you or which can motivate you in this journey for trust. Let me know your opinions, your journey, and what are the lessons you learned in your journey. Till we come up with another video, stay safe and take care.